And then I also wrote, Irene is actually starting to like CHAOL.
Yeah.
And then you wrote, in all caps, could this reread actually make me like him too? I needed to share that with everybody. Hey everybody, this is Kat.
And this is Rachel.
And you're listening to the Smut Peddlers Podcast, a show for people who love books, especially when there's smut. We discuss our likes, our dislikes, and share all our favorite moments with you.
Today we're talking about Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas, so grab your favorite beverage and get ready to burn with us. So this is part 4 of the Tandem Read. Again, we are doing the romantic order and doing the Tandem Read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. So today we're going through Empire of Storms chapter 21 to 25 and Tower of Dawn chapter 18 to 21.
So to recap what we've covered in our last episode, we did about 10 chapters prior to the ones that we'll cover today. We ended off with CHAOL moving his toes, which we're super excited about.
Yay!
Rowan and Dorian have made it to Skulls Bay and are about to be introduced to Rolfe. Pretty much they've walked into his office. Lorcan and Elide were traveling through the woods. They made it. They're kind of in a disguise right now and have joined a traveling circus troupe. And they are trying to make their way through to Terrasen. We have our dream team, which is Adian, Aelin, and Lysandra. They need to get to Skulls Bay ASAP. Very important. There's a threat to Dorian and Rowan that they got from Erewhon, so they are headed there as quickly as possible. And we ended off with Manon in not the best shape currently. She, instead of her killing Astrid, she turned on her grandmother, and her grandmother pretty much almost gutted her, and her and Abraxos made it away, but she is not in good health right now. She is kind of fading in and out.
Proud.
Yes. We're very proud that she has decided to go against her grandmother. However,
very anxious.
She is near death, which is not ideal.
She's got Abraxos. Should be fine. It'll be fine.
Yes, Abraxos will save her.
Yeah. Because Abraxos is such a good boy.
Yes. So this episode, we're starting with Empire of Storm. And that means we are going straight into Rowan and Dorian meeting Rolfe for the first time. Which, if you remember Rolfe's character, I feel like their interaction with Dorian, Rowan, and Rolfe interaction is I think one of my favorites I've read throughout the series right now, or throughout the Tandem Read, because they just sass each other, which is fantastic, because they're 3 of the sassiest characters in general, which is wonderful.
They're also all very strong, confident men, so it's just a measuring contest
Pretty
for
much,
the whole conversation. It's Rowan says something at one point that was, "Fae males are not human males." And I'm all right, bud. Okay.
I mean, true though.
No, it's true. But it's well, we're better. We're not quite the same as you human men. The main goal, of course, is, Dorian and Rowan have their objective of getting as many people on side to Aelin's cause and to protect against not Otterlin.
King Barrington. Morath.
Yeah. Why can't I remember the name of the guy that they got threatened by?
Erewhon?
There we go. My brain kept saying Otterlin, and I was nope, that starts with a different sound that's similar to that, but
definitely
I don't know.
A vowel,
can't find
but
it.
Not that one.
Can't find that one in my brain. Yeah, so they're trying to get as many people on side against Erewhon, and the conversation doesn't go super great. Rolfe is understandably, I don't want to be involved, okay? I gotta protect my stuff, okay? I don't have the resources, and I'm scared, pretty much. He's already lost like some of his crew to their forces. Like he's seen men with that used to be part of his crew be taken, and now they wear rings and they are changed.
Yeah, we pretty much learn in their first interaction when Dorian and Rowan are kind of questioning Rolfe about like, they pretty much say like, I don't smell Volg here, like we don't sense that the Volg have been here, like what's going on? And Rolfe pretty much says they were here, we beat them, and now it's just me and 4 men. Like that's all that remains. And he's like, I don't want any part of this nonsense. Like I don't want to be a part of this impending war. King Parrington knows not to mess with us or send any more people here, and we're just gonna kind of hold our ground in Skulls Bay.
His map also like isn't working great.
Yeah, it's working, but
their
like not,
stuff.
Yeah, everything
like he can't see Erewhon's fleet well. Like he can't tell how many there are, where they're really at. It's like something is messing with his map, which is terrifying and weird.
Yeah, he alludes to he can see kind of all of his territory. Like he pretty much alludes to that map only shows him like territory he was like looking over or like owned or whatever it is. And there's one section that was part of his territory that they like gave up to Erewhon pretty much, or he's referring to him as King Parrington because he doesn't know him as Erewhon yet. But he pretty much says like, I can't see anything happening. It's just like a cloud is over that section of the map. And he has no idea what's happening in that one like top section that he was like referring to. And he shows Rowan and Dorian that on his arm. Of like, yeah, it's moving. And I saw you coming in. Like, that's how I knew the things were happening. But like, I don't know what's going on up here because
can't see it.
Something. And that's when he's like, if they can hide from my magic map, I don't know if I want to be a part of it. Because that's his only, if you think about it, that's really his only like leg up on people, is that he can see them coming.
Yeah.
Like he's witty and smart. He's a pirate. Like you get this idea that he can like outmaneuver people, but also it's like,
I'd hope that you could still see like it's just a big rolling fog cloud moving towards you. So like, you know, it's coming, but you don't know like how much or how terrible or what exactly it consists of.
Yeah.
Because he also talks like, we've heard about, you know, they've got beasts and stuff. So like they can just create crazy, terrifying stuff.
So going along with our beast theme, we are introduced to a new beast, which is terrifying. Rolfe explains to Rowan and Dorian that they have sea wyverns, which are they are wyverns.
They're dragons.
Sea dragons. Like they are just
sick.
In the sea, which is terrifying because it's like they hadn't seen them before, and he's like, these are something of Morath. Like this is something of King Parrington that they have created. Yeah. So I'm a little scared of.
They're like
the sea dragons.
They're like evil Loch Ness monsters.
Yes. Abraxos, but scary.
That's what my brain. That's what my brain pictures is like evil Loch Ness monsters. Just a bunch of like little like necks coming out of the water. Terrifying.
Spoiler for Crescent City. The introduction of sea wyverns immediately was like, this is how we're going to cross connect to Crescent City, hopefully. Through the water. Let's go.
Through the water?
Yeah. Okay. Kick out everything you know about the rest of the series. Would that not be sick? You know they all kind of like overlap a little.
Because there's like a whole undersea.
Yeah. That is very introduced. You don't get anything like that anywhere else within her books except for in Crescent City. So I'm just like, what if they came in and like that woman who didn't want, like the one queen that didn't want to do anything similar to like, just wanted to be like left alone. What if she was just like, okay, fine, I'll help. And she like
just brings a bunch of sea dragons.
Yeah. But she then takes in somehow convinces the sea wyverns, or she can control them because she can control anything in the ocean. And then it's just like, now we have wyverns on our side and air wyverns. Because that queen, I can't remember her name. It's been so long since I read that, but
the one that's in
Crescent City.
City.
Yeah, the one that's in the water. Who like, because the whole theme, and this is
I
still
know
part
what
of the
you're talking
spoiler, the whole theme is that
'Cause
she
this
is
is where What's-His-Face
helping
goes.
shuttle
Yeah.
good people back and forth, and like she's acting as like a secret like underwater, like moving people out of the city to safety. What if she was just like, oh hey, by the way, I can control these things too.
I can't remember what her name is.
I can't either. Doesn't matter.
That would be
But-
sick.
That would be sick. Okay, end of spoiler. That's all. So, sea wyverns.
Yeah, they're a little terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. Every single time a new character or a new monster gets introduced, the entire time I read these, I'm like, cool. So, Lysandra, figure it out, please. Thank you. That's new for you. You want to figure that one out? Do it.
Yeah, just be one of them and
Every
control them.
single
It'll be great.
thing that gets introduced. I'm like, Lord of the North, do it. Figure it out. Figure out how to be that elk, you know? We can make up some good lore. Get people on side, okay? Because the Lord of the North already believes in you. You could probably impersonate him and get away with some shit. It's fine.
Or be similar. An offspring.
Or, like,
Because it
turn
was
into
really...
a
there was,
wyvern,
like,
please?
Yeah.
It'd be so sick.
Oh my god. I'm sure there is some kind of like restraint to what she can become.
I don't know.
I guess we
She's
don't.
a shapeshifter. That's the thing that's crazy about them is like they talk about them being so powerful and like they don't talk about the constraints.
Mhm.
She just does. Like she like sees the thing and then she's like, okay, I gotta figure it out.
Like
She's also got like
brain.
she's been helped a lot recently by like Rowan too, because he can at least shapeshift into one thing.
Mhm.
But
That's how she was doing like bird stuff, was because he would go out
Mhm.
as a bird and she was like, huh, that's kind of
Yeah.
sick. I can do some aerial.
I mean, she can turn into
Okay.
other people.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So Rolfe tells our guys about the sea dragons.
Mhm.
And he pretty much is like, and so like, as you can see, I don't want to disturb anything over there because that's terrifying. I'm good.
Mhm.
They're like, at least we can see the ones in the sky coming. We can't see the ones in the water coming. Ugh.
He
They-
also tells them, like Rowan and Dorian tell them about like, or tell Rolfe about what CHAOL is doing.
Mhm.
Like they mention that Dorian's hand, who's CHAOL, is trying to get support from Antica to like come on side as well. And Rolfe's like, they're not going to come. Like they've never
never pick a
come to
side.
help us for
Yeah.
for anything anyways. And then they like feel a shift. And they like feel that magic that they felt earlier. They couldn't really identify or figure out like what it was. And two Fae warriors have entered the chat.
Yes, they have.
And it's two of my favorite people on the planet. I love them
We
so much. They are two of the cadre, Gavriel and Fenris, who, if you remember, were also at, they were in Arrowfire at
Mistward.
Mistward! Kept wanting to say Windsward.
Yeah,
Damn
so
it.
they showed up to help fight and protect
Yeah.
Mistward.
So now they're back,
Yeah.
still attached to Maeve, which is stressful.
Yeah, we don't like that.
Yeah.
I had one little highlight of a thing that so Rowan and Fenris,
yeah.
the two of them like go head to head all the time. Like they're always just
Mhm.
like smart mouthing each other Gavriel is like the one that's a little level-headed between the three of them.
He's like the older dad almost of the group. Like he's the responsible, honorable, you know.
The one that kind of like, hey guys, let's chill. Let's not.
He's Captain America pretty much. Like,
yes.
Everybody relax.
Like,
it's gonna be fine. We'll put a plan together and we'll get ourselves out of this.
So of course, the first thing that he says to Rowan is, I liked your hair longer, which I thought was just very much on the nose for their interactions with each other. And then, of course, they go back and forth with a little, like...
Also, he says, I liked your hair longer, and Rowan throws a knife at his head. Yes. And it, like, skims his ear as Rowan's answer. Like, yep.
Like, I didn't fucking ask you. Thanks,
sure.
though.
Okay. Yep. That's cool. Didn't ask for your opinion.
Yeah, I think the next conversation where they're, like, at each other's throats again, he pretty much says to Fenrir is, like, I'm surprised no one's cut out your tongue. And he's like, the ladies really like it. I'm like, okay.
Oh my god. Okay.
No complaints for the women.
Jeez. He says, was your aim this shitty when you cut your own hair?
Yeah, they just sass each other, which I love. Which is why this, like,
I mean, they act like brothers.
Like yeah.
Like, they do. They act like brothers. They are... The cadre was, like, that's what it was anyways. It felt more like the group of them were a brotherhood. And, like, Lorcan was the family that they had, but didn't... They were like, no, whatever. We tolerate you and your bullshit. Yeah. Rowan, of course, is like, the fuck are you guys doing here? What's going on? And
what I also found funny is that, like, Rolfe doesn't know that they know each other.
Nope.
This whole time. So it's... They came to talk to Rolfe. He made it seem like, well, I have two Fey warriors, like, to protect me or whatever. You can't scare me kind of thing. And then the two Fey warriors walk in and Rowan knows them, like, very well.
These assholes!
And Rolfe is like, oh, fuck. So they're not gonna... Well, all right, then. He made it seem like... It was just funny because he made it seem like, aha, hold my beer. I have these two guys to go against you. And then... He's
You're
like,
gonna be so scared of these two guys that I have.
Each other.
Not only do you know each other, but you're like friends. All right, great, cool.
Like known each other for the last 500 years, not just.
Also, Gavriel says, "You know how cranky Fenris gets when he doesn't eat." This is why I'm saying, like, Gavriel's the dad. He's the absolute dad of the group. It's so good. They, of course, are, like, sharing information in the way that Rowan will share anything with someone who's blood sworn to Maeve, and in a way where the people who are blood sworn to Maeve can tell Rowan some stuff of what they are allowed to say. There's, like, a little bit of back and forth trying to figure out, like, is Maeve working with Rolfe? Like, is Maeve down there to get Rolfe to help with something that Maeve is doing? And they're really just out looking for Lorcan.
Yeah, so we learned that Maeve is readying an armada, which we found out previously, but now we know that it's headed to Eelway. And so, of course, Rowan's like, you need to tell us what you know. And they're like, this is all we know. We don't know why she's readying an army. We don't know why they're going there. And he says something along the lines of like, well, she's always told us before. And they, of course, snap back at him. And he's like, and are like, that was before you decided to embarrass her. And he's like, well, fuck. And that's when we go.
And also, it's like one of her main commanders, like, she can't trust any of them now.
Because now Lorcan is working on his own.
It's a stupid question, to be completely honest. It's like, oh, you don't think that she's going to be a little bit more cautious after you just, like, basically tricked her and left? Like, what are you talking about? Of course she doesn't trust them anymore.
Yeah. Pretty much everything that Rowan has known
about. Are pissed.
Yeah. Everything Rowan has known, too.
Don't yell at us.
Forever has changed. Because it typically, the dynamic was... It was Maeve and the cadre. So, like, everything that she not necessarily knew, but everything she like planned out
Yeah.
always involved them. Like they were seated at the table with her, so they knew the same information. And she's keeping it a lot of it close quarters now. It's just her.
Yeah.
She's not sharing with anyone, which is not great for us as the reader because we
She's a
don't know
wild
what
card.
the fuck is going
It's
on.
terrifying.
Yes.
Yeah, they ask about he can't really get much information out of them because she doesn't tell anything. Gavriel and Fenris ask about Aelin, and of course Rowan says absolutely nothing. It's like,
None of your fucking
she's not
business.
here. She's not here, and I won't be telling you where she is. Fenris basically says that the only reason that they told Rolfe was just out of a courtesy, because they kind of have to pass near the area to get where they're going. And although Rolfe is like, you know, tries to stay out of everything, he still is a relatively powerful force and has control of his own like waters around his area. And he's a pirate. So like, you know, if you don't tell him what's going on, he's just going to come and probably try to
figure it out on his own.
So,
well, isn't it? So she's going to Eelway, and then there's one section south of the mountain, which I think is between, and I'm going to look at a map for our audio listeners, looking at the book map in Empire Storm. There's one section, the section that we were talking about that is now like kind of blacked out, that they can't see, or he can't see anymore, is between the mountains and Eelway. There was some reason based off of his location they were coming to tell him this information, because it was like he's in between where she's going and where Morath is, or something along those lines, where like he was in the middle, so they were trying to like courtesy to him to be like, hey, we don't know what she's doing.
Yeah.
We don't know if she's allying with Morath or what the deal is, but you're about to be in the middle of potentially two really powerful people.
And like everybody knows that he's got the map pretty much. Like that's very known lore. So it's like if you don't tell him, he's going to probably know anyways. So you might as well just do the courtesy of like, hey, we're going to be doing some stuff out here. It's fine. We're letting you know. Don't panic.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do anything rash. Thanks.
So it's not technically like, obviously it's on the water side. So if you're looking at the map, Morath is north, Eelway is south. The Dead Islands and Skulls Bay are on like the eastern shore side between the two. So like to get from one to the other, it's very likely
sail right past.
They would have to sail past.
Yeah,
because Wenland is way east
Islands.
In its own fucking thing. Scary. We don't know what's happening.
Other than informing Rolfe as to what's going on with the Armada, they tell Rowan that they're out searching for Lorcan. Like that's their mission.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't really have a mission for anything else. Like their only mission is to find Lorcan at the moment.
I like the thing that I think they say in this chapter, where like Lorcan, they point out that like Lorcan does take advantage of the way that things are worded.
He's really smart.
Which they all do. They all do. Because that's the only way to get around anything anyways. But they're like, she's pissed because she gave him an order basically, and she's like, he's been like fucking around, not really getting it done, and like skirting the like lines of what I asked of him. And she's pissed, and she's like, go find him. And it's like kill or capture basically.
With this one, it's just kill.
Which is
stressful. Rowan pretty much asks them, are you here on Maeve's command ahead of the Armada? And Gavriel shakes his head. And you can tell, like, in this, Gabriel, I think he is like the maybe older brother figure who kind of like holds everyone together. He cares about all of them. Like he cares about Rowan. You can tell he cares about Fenris. He cares about Lorcan as well.
Have to write someone else's name on his body. Like
no,
that's not, doesn't matter what he did.
Yeah. So he is like, we have to find Lorcan. Like we've only been dispatched to find Lorcan. And Rowan is like, oh, to capture him and bring him back. And Gabriel pretty much shakes his head no, we've been sent here to kill him. And you're like, oh shit. Maeve is really pissed, actually. Especially if she's going to kill one of her own cadre, which is like, and her like most powerful one.
Yeah.
Because it's
so
like
all of this
pretty known that he is the strongest. I think it's like head to head him and Rowan, but like I think based off how he's described, he's stronger than Rowan. Like he can
I think that
hide himself from
Rowan. I think
Rowan.
he's more clever than Rowan.
Okay.
Or sorry, I think Rowan's maybe a little bit more clever than
I don't know. Lorcan.
I don't know. I mean, they're
Lorcan's
really
like,
fucking they're
smart.
head and head.
Yeah.
He's really smart, but he makes really dumb decisions sometimes.
True.
But,
I think Lorcan can read Rowan very well, and I think Rowan has a harder time reading Lorcan.
Yes.
Which is like a big thing that comes up, in Queen of Shadows or Air of Fire or something along those lines. One of those books where...
One of the many books we've read.
Rowan is like trying to keep Lorcan away from Aelin, and he still shows up, and he's like, I didn't sense him. It's like, that's when I was like, oh fuck. Like, Lorcan's stronger than I had anticipated him being. That's not great. And then he like killed all those fog guys in the drainage too, and you're like,
he's very powerful.
It's like, this man's strong, scary.
So hearing all this information, Rowan is like, gotta send out some messages. I've got to inform people of the news. And Rolfe's response, like, why? Like, isn't the recipient gonna be here soon anyways? Rowan's like, what are you talking about? It's like, come on. Like, Aelin's on her way here, right? Like, your queen is coming here. She gonna expect, like, a grand parade when she arrives? Rowan's like, no, she's not coming here. That's not happening.
Why would she come here?
Why would she come here? Through all of this, he's like, whatever, like, I gotta go send messages. You're dismissed, Rolfe. Fenris choked on a dark laugh, but Gabriel straightened as Rolfe hissed, I don't care who you are and what power you wield. You don't give me orders in my territory. You'd better get used to taking them, Rowan said. It's so good.
He also snaps at him. Rowan also snaps at Rolfe saying, I'd hardly call squatting in your tavern in fear of Volg assassins free. Because he pretty much is like, I'm a pirate. I'm free to do whatever I want on the waters. Yeah. And like wherever Rowan I go, is, like, I can be wherever I want.
Trying to scare him.
Yeah. Well, he's young. Like Rolfe is described as pretty young.
I mean,
like he's
like
not Dorian.
Unreasonable that he's trying to scare him.
Yeah.
But like I think it's not so much that he's trying to scare him unnecessarily. He's trying to get him to understand the gravity of like, hey, so like, you know, if you don't
fuck around, you're gonna find out.
Like, you know, your freedom is gonna turn into you being a
wanted fugitive.
A husk for a demon, okay? If Morath takes over. So like, what are we doing? Which one sounds better?
Yeah. Chaos.
Yeah, terrifying.
There's some lore we learned too when we're talking. So Rolfe is dismissed. Rolfe like has a temper tantrum. Yeah. He's like, you can't tell me what to do, blah, blah, blah. Rowan's like, see ya. And then of course Rolfe is like, get the fuck out of my office. And they're like, we were leaving anyway. Like, don't worry about it. It was one of those like,
let's go.
Get out. We were already walking out the door. Like, so
we're leaving.
They go down, not to the Sea Dragon. So they're in the Sea Dragon. Upstairs is the office and downstairs is like a tavern. They go to a different tavern, which is attached to where the fuck they're staying. One of the inns that they're staying at. in Skulls Bay. And of course, the main goal, feed Fenris because he's cranky.
He's angry. He's a hangry boy.
Rowan is, if you guys remember from the last episode, he's drained. Like, he was just using all of his magic. He felt burnout, and he knew he didn't sleep the whole time. Like, he maybe slept for like 2 hours, it was described as. So, like, he's exhausted. He does not have magic. If these two baboons decide they want to fight him, like, he's fucked. Like, he will not be able to stand up against the two of them. Luckily, they have some kind of bond still, so that's not happening. Dorian doesn't know how to control his magic. So, like, really are only on our good side right now, if you're looking good and bad. Rowan's not doing hot currently. He needs sleep and food, and probably sleep more and more sleep. Like, he's in the throes of it. So they go and have whatever their meal, and we get some lore. We learn a little bit more about Fenris, which kind of like, he acts like an asshat, but like, you kind of feel a little bad for him in this scenario because you learn he has a twin brother named Connell. And the reason he's enslaved to Maeve was because Maeve tricked his brother into like being enslaved to her. And he pretty much said, I'll do it because she wanted him. Like, she wanted Fenris.
He pretty much was like, and Fenris turned her down multiple times and was like, no, I'm not doing that. So she went after Connell instead and basically manipulate, because like Fenris was like the really popular one and was super powerful, and Connell was just kind of like the secondary. And he also is more like Gavriel in that like he wants a purpose and like wants to serve if he can. And be of use. So, like, she used that to manipulate him into joining and, like, doing the blood oath, basically. And then Fenris did it to protect his brother because Connell was basically being used by Maeve. So Fenris is like, fine, I will join, but you leave my brother, like, alone.
Yeah, I think she had to break the blood oath with his brother for him to take it. Was like, what?
I'm not sure. I think he's still under the blood oath.
Okay. There was something along the lines where it was like, yeah, like you said,
she just doesn't order him around anymore.
Yeah.
Like he basically did it with the intention of like, you have to stop like manipulating my brother and asking these things of my brother. I will do them instead. That was like the deal. Which is so sad.
Yeah. It's like all up until this point, I was like, Fenris is a little fuckboy and is annoying the shit out of me. And then this, I'm like, oh, he has a heart.
You're like, oh no, it's trauma. Oh no.
He's pushed it all down and he's a comedian.
Oh no.
Yeah.
He's compensating. Yeah, so I love Fenris so much.
We do get a sassy note too, which I think is we do get a sassy note from Rowan, which I think is hilarious because he's like, oh, so that's why she sent both of you, because not one of you could take out Lorcan. And they respond, she sent the three of us, including Vaughn, who was like the other one in their group. And so you're like, oh no, Lorcan's really strong. Like, it was even in that where they admitted to like, no, we couldn't 1v1 him. Like, that's why she sent all three of us to find him.
And Vaughn, like, was sent north to try to find him. Basically, they're just on, like, get information and, like, find him. And then if we can find him, then we can try to, like, take him out after. Like, because they'd all, like, get back together, basically, and try to figure out how to take him out.
Yeah.
But this is where I love the way that they, like, manipulate what they've said. What she says, like, in what her orders are to them. Rowan asked, has Maeve given you leave to bargain on her behalf? And Fenris says, we only received our orders and the permission to use any means necessary to kill Lorcan. She did not mention your queen at all, so that amounts to a yes. So, like, she didn't mention anything. All she said was by, like, any means necessary. So if you can help us kill Lorcan, then yeah, we're good. We can bargain. What are we doing? So they basically are like, we'll help you find him, because we may have played a small yet effective trick on Lorcan, and he'll come back. Like, he's gonna come back pretty soon. We sent him along thinking that he had some stuff that he doesn't have, and he's gonna find out eventually and get really angry and come back. So if you guys just hang with us, he'll come back. You know, it's easy.
He'll figure it out eventually.
They're like, okay, cool, but like, how long is that gonna take? Rowan's like, did she give you a timeline on like how long this had to take him out? And they're like, no. It's like, then we're good. I see no problems here. What's happening? It's not like Lorcan took too long doing something and now she sent a bunch of people to kill him. Like, you don't think that this is gonna happen again to maybe you guys? Okay, cool. Maybe it won't take as long this time.
Well, I think if they're on, I think she's scared of Aelin. And I think them helping Aelin would protect him slightly, because Aelin,
I think that she'd be real pissed.
Yeah, she'll be pissed.
Aelin.
But if Aelin is like, you fucking touch him and I'll burn your shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard though, because she can't.
It's gonna be bad. Like, nothing good's gonna happen.
She can't have any claim over them.
Yep.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Rowan, of course, they have no timeline. So Rowan is also thinking, since he knows how it works, he's thinking of how to manipulate Maeve's words so that they can help him with what he needs. And
they don't disagree. Like,
yes.
They also don't push back a lot of like, well, we don't know if this is going to work. Like, you don't know if Lorcan's going to come back. For all we know, like, if we make this deal, like, Lorcan could be gone by the time you consider, like, our end of the bargain fulfilled. And then we're, like, super screwed. So the conversation that he has and, like, his speech that he makes through this whole thing is, like, so fantastic.
Mm-hmm. He really is trying. Like, Rowan's pulling everything.
He like does not pull any punches like when he has this conversation with them. He said 10 years ago, 10 years ago, we did nothing to stop this. If Maid had sent a force, we might have kept it from growing so out of control. Our brethren were hunted and killed and tortured. Maeve let it happen for spite, because Aelin's mother would not yield to her wishes. So yes, my fire heart is one flame in the sea of darkness, but she is willing to fight Fenris. She is willing to take on Erewhon, take on Maeve, and the gods themselves, if it means peace can be had. But Aelin is one person, and even her gifts might not be enough to win alone. She will die, and once that flame goes out, it's done. There is no second chance. Once that fire extinguishes, we are all doomed in every land and every world. Ha!
Rowan knows a lot more than they do about these keys.
She writes so well.
Yes.
Like, her like mastery over the way that she writes these speeches, I feel chills. Like, I've read this like 5 times,
mm-hmm.
and still I'm like goosebumpy and tingly. It's so well written. I think this is why people like obsess a little bit more over Throne of Glass than ACOTAR sometimes, because like ACOTAR will always be my favorite of them. Like, it always will be. Nothing is going to change that. No rational argument will change my emotional like reaction to those books. But I get it when people are like, the way that this is written is just different. Like, it feels different. It's on a different level. This
feels like a combination of Crescent City and ACOTAR together.
Yeah, like, I feel
get
like this
a lot more of this background and this like what is playing behind the scenes versus ACOTAR. Everything was like really upfront and in your face. Like, you knew what was happening. Yes. You knew who these people were. You knew who was manipulating who. You knew exactly what your end target was. Like, you knew who the bad guy was the whole time. Like, you had it all right there. So like, it was very laid out. This is
it
more...
feels more digestible.
Yeah.
Like, it's... that's what it is. Fantasy Fangirl started doing that, where they were saying, like, the complexity of a read, like, how much you need to pay attention to the thing to really get it. I think Throne of Glass in general is more complex in terms of, like, if you really want to get the full, like, experience or, like, the full breadth of what you can get out of this book, you have to pay attention more.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with, like, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and all of those. Like, I don't know if those books are quite as enjoyable if you're not, like, paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, like, do another task and listen to the audiobook at the same time. Like, I have to be, like, reading the book
Locked
and
in.
listening to the audiobook because I'm gonna miss shit.
Yeah.
It's, like, all of the same stuff around, like, why people love Easter eggs so much. Because it's, like, you know, you want to feel like you're solving that mystery while you're reading it, or that, like, you get rewarded for, like, remembering and knowing information from before. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like this does that so well compared to the other two.
Yeah. I think Crescent City was just, like, it was too much. Like, it wasn't
that was a fantasy book.
Yeah. Crescent City was hard for me
so
to
much
read
lore.
Because all of the things, and maybe it's because I think it's because of doing the tandem read with this and Tower of Dawn. If I had to read just Tower of Dawn by itself, I think I would have the same, not because of CHAOL, because it's too much. Like, it's too much background information. If you read Tower of Dawn by itself, it is like a Crescent City book.
Yeah. No,
it's
that's
written
a good
very
comparison.
similarly.
Yes.
When you read them together, it feels like Throne of Glass or ACOTAR, because you're getting both at the same time. You're getting some of the background heavy stuff, you're getting lore kind of sprinkled in, but there's always, like, something going on. Versus Crescent City, there were, like, you'd have, like, 5 or 6 chapters of information, something would happen, then you get 5 and 6 chapters of information, and then it's like this one little, like, something would happen, and I was just like, I need more things to happen.
Yeah.
More, please.
It can get frustrating. And, like, I read Tower of Dawn by itself, and I think maybe that's what it is. Like, I do have a frustration with, you know, 800-page book about CHAOL, which I'll complain about every day for the rest of my life. But I think it needed something else. It needed more than just CHAOL. Like, I absolutely understand how it would not have made sense to, like, pull Lorcan and Elide out and put them in Tower of Dawn, or pull Manon out and put them in Tower of Dawn, and, like, have done those chapters in the same timeline, because it's, like, that's the point. It's a whole different area. Mm-hmm. So, like, maybe Manon could have worked, but it's just not the way that she wrote it. And still, it's like that, all of those things are happening kind of...
All of the people in here are flushed out for the most part. Like, all of our main characters in Empire of Storm are, like, we know their background, we know all this stuff. We are meeting a bunch of new characters in here.
That's what I was saying last episode, too, of, like, it's so much for me to... You're asking me on book 6 of a series
to learn about new people.
7 of a series, if you read Assassin's Blade in between. You want me to read this? You're talking a whole new political structure. Like, we're going, you know, we did that in Era of Fire. Like, I get it. We went to a new place. We learned a bunch of stuff. We learned a bunch of new people. But, like, I had an expectation of those people were going to be important for another 5 books. Mm-hmm. How important are those people going to be in this last book? Like, what are we doing? This is a lot.
It's a lot for them. It to be one book after.
Yeah, one book before the last one.
Yeah.
So it felt strange. Mm-hmm. But this makes it feel so much better, because it feels like I'm getting that new place, like, in little tidbits. Yeah. Like, it's a part of the book versus, like, one of the things that is meant to be the main story driving factor of the book, because it's, like, CHAOL and that stuff, and that's it. That's the whole book.
Honestly, like, the parts of the chapters in Tower of Dawn that I like the least are the ones where Nezrin's with her family, or it's, like, Nezrin.
Which is sad, because I like Nezrin.
Me too. Like, that's...
Like, that's why I think that it doesn't do it... It didn't do it justice.
Yeah.
but she's still my favorite author on the planet, and I love her.
Oh yeah, I have no issues with Sarah J. Maas at all.
Please don't anybody come after us. We love her, I promise.
Yeah.
The tandem read rocks.
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to read it not as a tandem read. Please. It's fantastic.
Back to Rowan, though.
Where were we?
We're talking about Rowan's speech. And you're right. He pretty much does not hold back. Gavriel and Fenris didn't speak. Like, they didn't talk about it. But Rowan knew that they were, like, making eye contact. They were kind of, like, communicating with each other in a way. Like, visually communicating with each other. Before they could turn and say no, Rowan said to Gavriel, "If you do not fight in this war, Gavriel, then you doom your son to die." And you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck, Rowan. Why? Okay. Well, yep. Cat's out of the bag.
That cat has been released. Dear God.
So as you all know, as the reader/listener, Gavriel's the father to Adian, our dream team, who's about to be in Skulls Bay.
And this is also Gavriel finding out for the first time because Adian
has a son.
Knows.
Yes, Adian knows.
They figured it out, but they kind of let Adian say if you want to tell him or not. So Rowan is kind of like
crossing a line.
Yeah, he's kind of going against what they had talked about to
He's also going against
make this political move.
Slightly.
Yeah.
Because she pretty much was like, it is not our place to decide. Mm-hmm. And Rowan just decided.
I get it, but
I understand. I don't love it. It's giving CHAOL making decisions for other people, but
he did it for a good reason this time.
Yes, he's not doing it because he's trying to protect an individual from learning information. He is doing it because he knows that he needs to get Gavriel and Fenris on their side, especially with Maeve moving. Like, he is making a very calculated, I've been in war for 500 years and have fought many times. Like, he's making a very calculated decision. And even in his, like, inner dialogue, he's like, Aelin's gonna be fucking pissed. But sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, that's for sure. But, we gotta do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we swap to Tower of Dawn.
He does. So I do want to also mention, he does threaten them. He threatens Gavriel and Fenris that if you so much as hint to Maeve that Gavriel has a son, he will not in any way fucking help you. And Lorcan is gone. He's gone like the wind. If we see him, we are going to tell him you're looking for him.
We're going to tell him to go somewhere else. Yeah.
Yes. And so he's like, you can.
That's another one where I think
fucked.
it's a little unfair because they're bloodsworn, dude. Like, you can't. There's only so far that can go.
Yeah. If she straight up asks, do you have a son? They have to tell him. But I think his thought is like, if you hint to that being a possibility for her to have the information to then ask you about it, then you're fucked. But yeah, that's Empire Storm. Let's go to Tower of Dawn. Whee! Back to CHAOL. He can move his feet, roll his toes.
Yeah, so that's basically where the chapter picks up. Mm-hmm. They're kind of talking about, she's asking a ton of questions. Like, Irene is just like, can you feel that? How much movement is it? What does it feel like? Can you feel tingles? Like, can you do it again? And CHAOL's just like mute, like cannot put words together, does not know how to react, just complete shock. And they're like, Irene is like, this is good. Like, we can build off of this. Like, we tried something and it worked, and now we can go and try to continue to push through this again, making the connection to the fact that he had an emotional breakthrough and then also was able to do something with his
He was
feet
then
and
able
feeling
to move
police.
his toes. So this is all, we're still like painting picture in this scenario. We are still in CHAOL's room. Like they were doing, like she had just finished fighting whatever was inside of him. She's exhausted, he's exhausted, and then he wiggled his toes. And so like we're still in that scenario. She has not left. Like they're still in this room. So another thing, she had a pretty nasty nosebleed. Which was one of the things that CHAOL was like, hey, are you okay?
She's like, yeah, it's totally normal and it just happens all the time. He's like, bullshit.
Yeah. So she needs to get cleaned up. He needs to get cleaned up. Like they had a rough time. So she's like, I'm going to go wash up. Very excited that you can move your toes. Keep doing that. Like whenever you think of it, do it. Like always just wiggle your toes. Just keep thinking about like making the connection brain to feet. Because at first he was kind of absent-mindedly doing it. He didn't notice he was doing it. She just saw his like toes moving and like twitching almost. And then she was like, hey, are you doing that on purpose? And he's like, huh? What are you talking about? Can you feel yourself moving them? And then once he like thought about it, he was like, oh, I can feel myself moving them.
Yeah.
We're like, yes.
Yay. We're coming back. So they're both exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
They basically are like, okay, great. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Gotta go clean up, take a bath, eat, sleep. Of course, she can't catch a break. So rather than being able to like actually go rest after healing, Hussar, who's a princess and jealous and doesn't know how to share her toys, is like, you should come to my room. Summons her to meet with her after healing.
Yeah,
CHAOL.
after this 5-hour session of awfulness, Hussar has now summoned Irene to meet with her. And you're like, sick. Great.
Yeah. She says, I can't help but feel neglected, you know?
My
okay.
God.
She's busy, all right?
Yeah.
She's got shit to do. This whole conversation is very strange to me.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time that I'm like, great. Hussar does play the political game. Because she is like very snippy and like she has like a very mean girl attitude.
It feels very like manipulating of Irene and their friendship too, which like
this is absolutely
very much rubbed me the wrong way. Where I'm like,
well, that's why I'm like, it's very
fuck?
confusing to me because she doesn't seem politically manipulative to me up until this conversation, where I'm like, no, you're like, because she threatens her in this conversation. She basically is like, I want to know what's happening in your sessions with CHAOL. I want to know what your relationship is. And then like what her relationship is with Caution still, because, and it's not, you do not get the feeling either that like she's asking because she cares as Caution's sister that like he's not getting screwed around. It's like you are a potential, not enemy, but like a potential competitor for the throne if you're with Caution, an enemy of like the state if you end up with CHAOL and going back as a healer. And then like Irene is just like, I'm working, dude. Like, what? I just want to work and then I need to leave. Like, that's all I want. I don't want to be with Caution.
Like,
I don't want to be with CHAOL. I just want to be a healer and like go heal back in, where I'm from.
Hussar also knows that she wants to leave. So like a big part of this is that Irene went to the Torre to train to be a healer so that she can go back to Fenharrow and help her people and heal her people and like use her magic and kind of figure out how to do all of that the correct way, because she didn't have anyone anymore directly in her life that could teach her that. And so Hussar uses that against her. She pretty much says like, does Cashin know that you want to leave? Does Cashin know all of this stuff? Well, maybe I'll tell him and he'll force you to stay. kind of thing. And you're like, the fuck? I thought you were supposed to be her friend. Like, you're described as her only friend. And like in the book so far, you get this idea that it starts off like every conversation always kind of starts off like not great, I think, with Hasar. But then at the end of the conversation, you're like, oh no, they're actually truly friends. She cares about her. She's actually like wants her to be good. This conversation, I'm like, oh, at no point was I was like, oh, she cares about her. She just does it in a weird way. Now it's like, oh, Hasar doesn't give a fuck as long as
she's just like, she needs a pawn.
Yeah. Just like,
so Irene is, if Hafiza's gonna pick a pawn, Irene's not a bad pawn. She's got connections to Caution, whether she wants them or not. She's got connections to CHAOL. She's basically Hafiza's unofficial heir. Like, if Hafisa were to pass away suddenly without naming an heir, people would probably be like, Irene, you're it. Get in there. You are now like the head of the Torre. She doesn't want any of that. She wants to leave. Because she's just, you know, Kat said it earlier, of like, she wanted to learn, and then she wanted to go take what she learned and go and, you know, heal what she can. Or help how she can. But Hasar, like, she is more connected than, like, she recognizes that Irene's more connected than Irene gives herself credit for. If Irene wanted to be a spy, she'd be a great spy. Like, you kidding? She's like in the rooms all the time. She's in CHAOL and Nezrin's room regularly.
Yeah.
So, like, she can get like any information that she wants. And she is in a really good place to manipulate CHAOL into giving her information. She's literally healing him. So, Hasar shares a bunch of information with Irene about Parrington and the army. And this is where we start getting like more crossover between the two books of like, okay, we're now at the point where information that has been happening in Empire of Storms is making it into Tower of Dawn. So like where Parrington is, like what has been happening with his armies, like who is, I think like what happened in the glass castle, like what happened.
Yeah, they now know that the castle has been broken, destroyed,
and that like Aelin and Dorian are
unaccounted
something
for.
Happened, and they don't really know where they are, but they don't think that they're dead. Like they're
Correct.
like they're alive and somewhere, but like have fled the capital or whatever. So Hasar does make a really good point to Irene of like, hey, yeah, I know that you think that like all of this stuff is scary and that now it's moving over here, but like there's also the very real possibility that CHAOL and Nezrin came over here and have like either staged these attacks to make it look like the like problem is spreading over here to Antica, and that's like they're doing it as a trick to get us to agree with them and like lend their forces. We don't know if it's as bad as they're saying it is. So Hasar also controls her passage out. So like she threatened her as well with like, maybe Caution will make you stay. And realistically, if that doesn't work, Hasar can just make you stay. Like Hasar just won't let you leave.
Hasar, like her role in the Coggin kind of empire or whatever you want to call it.
The Cogginate or whatever it is. Yeah.
Her role is like she is the head of the like sea cavalry, like pretty much Navy? All of the ships that go in it. Yeah, the Navy, I guess, would be our version.
They don't call it a Navy, which is why you couldn't get the word. Sea cavalry is probably what they do call it, although I can't remember.
Yeah. So she's pretty much in charge of like all the ships that go in and out of Antica. And so for Irene to be able to leave, she would have to take a boat. And that's kind of what we learn in this conversation. We do get this weird, like, so, like you said, Hasar is warning Irene that, like, maybe it was CHAOL and Nezrin that planted this. And then you also get this, so, like, you get all of this, like, Hasar is kind of manipulating her, and then it flips, like I said, with all of the conversations with Hasar, and it seems like she thinks of Irene as a legitimate friend and that she's scared and angry on Irene's behalf that she was potentially attacked. But then it's like she flips again and she's like,
I know.
but you can't leave. And you're like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, are you
Maybe
okay?
I'll tell Caution that you can't leave. Also, I actually was very scared that you might have been injured or hurt, and I'm sad that you didn't come to me for help, but also, I might not let you leave.
Yeah, and you're like,
what are we doing?
What's happening?
We're flip-flopping. I think she does care, but again, like, she can't share her toys. It's like, it's mine, and I'm going to keep it, but, like, I do care about it. I'll treat it well while I have complete control over it. It's like, that's not how this works.
Nope. Yeah. It's not great. She does put some of the question marks back into Irene's head. I think up to this point, like, there was a period where obviously Irene didn't trust CHAOL, but once she kind of like saw what was happening, like saw the visions kind of inside of him, she sort of flipped onto his side of like, oh, he's not actually a terrible human being. But this, I feel like, puts question marks back into her head about him. And so the seeds of doubt are back. Yeah, she agrees to try to figure out some information for Hussar. Or I think it may have been like an internal dialogue and not necessarily her agreeing out loud. But she is going to question CHAOL a little bit more, I think.
Yeah. She basically invites her to come, like Hussar says, like, you're going to come to a party with me.
Tonight. You're like,
tonight. She's like, what am I going to wear?
She needs to sleep.
I got it all figured out. Don't worry. She's like, okay, great. I would like to sleep.
5 hours of using her magic and like nosebleed and all this stuff. And then she's getting questioned and like manipulated and then questioned. And then like, I care about you, but also I don't, but also I do, but also I don't. And you're like, can this girl have a fucking break for like 5 minutes? Give her 24 hours to not.
She's too important.
Have to talk to you.
Not have to talk to anybody. She needs sleep.
But yeah, the party is a feast. It's called the Tea Home Feast. And it's in honor of the sea goddess because they celebrate all religions and deities in this area. So they have a feast.
So many
they have so many parties.
Dear God. Yeah. That's a lot to keep up with. When does anyone get any work done?
Doesn't matter. They're a utopia, remember? Nothing bad happens there, except for once.
Nothing bad. No one works. Everything just gets finished magically. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. The only person that works is Irene.
Too much.
And Sartak. Those two.
That's true. Well, Caution does some stuff. But he's just...
I don't know. The whole time he's just pining over Irene, so I don't know what he does. I'd pine over her too. She's fantastic, but please.
She is fantastic. But also,
please get your shit together, boy.
Take a hint, my dude.
Yeah.
This party, of course, because if Irene has to go, it means CHAOL's gonna be there. Mm-hmm. She's gonna have to do spying. So, CHAOL and Nezrin are getting ready to go to the party, and CHAOL kisses Nezrin while they're like getting ready. Nezrin is like so stunned she just kind of doesn't do anything. She like...
It was so cute too, which like...
It made me so happy, but like he literally says she'd been surprised enough that by the time he'd pulled away, she hadn't so much as laid a hand on him. And I'm like, nothing?
Because she was like walking by. Like the whole scene is he's in his wheelchair, like ready to go, and she's like dressed in nine, and she's gonna go to open their door so that they can leave, and he grabs her like hand and like pulls her towards him and gives her a kiss. And she's like it's described as she's just stunned and nothing happens. And you're like, CHAOL actually is trying for once and you can't give him
because he's feeling hopeful.
And the whole like the thing that sucks is like I had so much hope for the two of them. Granted, him and Irene are getting close, and I'm like, let's go, Irene and CHAOL. I'm here for it. I'm here for Nezrin and Sartak, but there's still like this little bit of me of like,
no.
they cared for each other, like, even when they were kind of, like, both a little shitty, and now they're getting better.
But they've grown, you know,
Yeah,
they
and,
grew
like, now
together,
they're
and now
grown.
they can grow apart. That's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
This is
But
what
I
growth
also
is.
was like, he, in his, like,
Well, it was
internal
so
dialogue,
sad.
too, is he's like, she was so surprised there was no fire, and, like, he also
literally
realized
says there
that there
was
was, like,
no
nothing.
heat, no real feeling. I'm like, oh.
There's
mean,
also that
that's okay.
same day, like, he wakes up and he awoke and, like, found himself eager to start the day, and I was just like,
I know.
Kale, finally.
He doesn't, like, it doesn't seem to, like, get to him, though. Like,
No.
they don't dwell on it much, which I also am like, maybe he's just testing the waters of, like, okay, I want to kiss people, but Nezrin's not the people that apparently I want to be kissing. I wonder who else.
Yeah,
would
he
be
pretty much
kissing
says
later.
he expected it. He practically shoved her away these weeks. He didn't blame her at all
Yeah.
for the surprise.
I mean, her surprise
Yeah.
makes sense, but
I
I don't know. Nothing?
It kind of makes me sad.
It does. Well, I think it's part timing, because I think that she's just at the point now where it's like,
Does he give a
It's
shit
too
about me
late.
anymore?
yeah. And I think that part of it too is going to be like, even if she does, it was probably more about him than it was about the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, I don't think that she's dumb. She probably has that in her head too, of like, if it had been about her, like, why would it not have happened before? But like, now that he's feeling better, like, I don't know. It's just, it makes sense that she's like more surprised than it makes sense in my head of like, nothing? You just stood there? And then you didn't talk about it at all afterwards either, because like they don't.
Even if
not
she
that
was,
they're-
yeah, they don't
Not that
speak.
either of them are good at talking to each other in the first place. So like, whatever.
See, in a normal relationship, Kale and Nezrin, we'd go, hey, that was out of the blue. Are you feeling okay? You good? You feeling better? He would be like, I'm excited for the day today. Like, I woke up feeling good. And I wanted to share that good with you. Instead, they just, like, stare at each other awkwardly. And then she
just
goes off
opens
for
the door
her
and they
day.
leave.
And he is
And they go to
doing his thing.
dinner.
Yeah. You're like, huh? Okay. Yeah, this next morning too. So it wasn't the same. They were supposed to do Kale and Irene were supposed to do another day of like healing. And I think Kale is concerned for Irene's well-being, which, you know, we are too a little
Yeah.
because she got fucked up the last time pretty much.
He goes to check on her.
Yeah,
because
he mounts his horse.
He
and
like hadn't
goes.
seen her.
So where Kale is meeting up with Irene, I love this part. A big reason I love this part is because nothing is expected of Kale, and he just kind of like wants to be out. Like he has decided that he does not want to be cooped up like in the palace, which I think is like 8 steps forward for Kale. We are proud of Kale in this moment, or at least I am.
I mean, he has freedom now. He
Mhm.
has like autonomy over. He has so much more ability to go and do things now.
Yes.
Like he has the wheelchair, but like he can only do so much with the wheelchair, and you know, this is a fantasy world. You know, the accessibility and handicap ADA stuff isn't. I don't know. Do they have it's Annika, so they probably do have wheelchair accessible shit everywhere, for being honest. But still, like, riding on a horse is a lot different, and the fact that he can get up and down off of a horse, like, there's so much more he can go and do. So he's like, oh, well, I can go over and check on her because I can go.
Yeah. So he
places.
pretty much rides his horse to the Torre. He realized that she's an hour late.
Gets nervous.
He's concerned, especially with the attack on the library. Like, he's extra concerned because he knows about the Vogue. If it is the Vogue, he knows that they can slip through anywhere. Like, if you don't know how to find them, like, they're difficult to track. So he goes there. He's hoping he either runs into her on the way, like she's gonna be passing him and be like, oh, sorry, I'm late, and it'll be fine. I don't know if he brings, I think in this case he brings the other horse with him, the one she would have ridden. I don't remember. Or it's at the Torre. Somehow the horse exists somewhere, I believe.
There is
somehow it magically appears. Don't remember where. But he gets over to the Torre, and the first, of course, guard he sees is the same one that he's interacted with previously, who we like. I still don't remember his name. Probably couldn't tell you if it was listed in front of me either.
I feel like it started with an S, but I can't remember now.
Maybe. I literally couldn't help you. And he asks, of course, that same guard that they've interacted with before if Irene has left yet. And he says, no, I haven't seen her. She hasn't left. And so that, of course, makes him even more nervous because she isn't even like on her way to the palace. Like she hasn't come out at all. And like, he knows that she has to go to like people's houses to heal them too. Like she's a pretty like well-regarded healer. She does a lot of healing.
She's a busy lady.
Yeah. So he's like, well, that's not great.
What's happening?
In the courtyard, he runs into Hafiza and another healer. And so he, of course, is concerned and voices that concern to Hafiza. And she, like, pretty much is like, oh, no, she's fine. She's resting. Like, Irene is resting. And he's like, what do you mean she's resting? Oh, she was really drained after the healing and the magic and then having to, like, do all of this stuff afterwards. She just was very, like, tired. And Hafiza, like, assured him that it's just a restorative rest. Like, there's nothing of concern. Of course, he's like, yeah. Did I kill her?
Like, what do you mean she's sleeping for a whole day? He says if tomorrow is a holiday, she can have the day off. And Hafiza says, you don't know Irene very well if you think she considers these holidays to be days off.
I really enjoyed that CHAOL offered to escort Hafiza and Hafiza accepted too, because Hafiza is like, you can tell she's like, well, she knows what's going on. Like she knows she can read CHAOL like a book. Like she knows that he's like conflicted and all these things. Like he was captain of the guard and now he's like incapacitated pretty much. And like she was the first person to notice when he was there for the trainings too, that like he was not thrilled with what was going on and tried to like smooth over the situation and pretty much was like, would you like me to help you with that, or would you like to do it on your own? And like all of these things, like she read him very well. And so I think in this moment, and this could just be me reading behind her as a character, she sees that little bit of light in him of like, he gets fulfillment as being a helper, like as being someone who can offer himself to others to like protect them in some way. And so the fact that she accepts is like, she sees that light like flicker back on and she's like, I'm going to feed it a little bit. And you're like, yes, Hafiza, please. Thank you. We've all just wanted, we just need to feed the little bit of light that's in CHAOL. We need it to keep going just a little bit more. Yeah. So he goes off and kind of, Hafiza has to do her rounds with that other healer. And he pretty much like goes off with her through the town while like she
escorts them.
Yeah. To all the places she has to go. Yeah. Which he likes, which is great. And we like that for him because we know he needs a little bit. We got to scratch his back a little bit to keep him. We got to keep his spirits high.
So Irene finally arises from her sleep. She's been sleeping for a day and a half.
Yeah.
And she's like, whoops, my bad.
Yeah. So it's like
probably go check on CHAOL.
Yeah. That whole day, the whole time CHAOL was with Hafiza, he goes back to the palace. Like that whole day has passed. It is now the next morning, 6 a.m., like sunrise. Yep. And that's when Irene wakes up and she goes, oh shit, I missed a day. Like, whoopsies.
Yep.
And of course she knows CHAOL too.
It's like the holiday day now.
Yeah.
So the dinner is like this night, and she goes to check on CHAOL before at the beginning of the day. So she shows up at his door, and CHAOL just goes, she wakes. And like found out that this is where I'm confused.
Yeah, she wakes up.
He rode here all by myself.
Yeah, so the next morning.
So is she at? Did he?
They're
stay
at the Torre. No, he went back home, and then he came back the next day. Dawn had barely broken by the time Irene slipped into the Torre courtyard and paused. The sun had crept over the compound wall, spearing a few shafts of golden light into the purplish shadows. She wakes, Lord CHAOL says. Irene strode to him, gravel crunching loudly in the drowsy dawn. You rode here? And his response, all by myself.
It's so cute.
And you're like, yes. So and she arched her brow, a gentleman through and through, which I also thought. You brought the other horse. There it is. I was like, another horse appears.
Where's the
and
horse?
You brought the other horse.
So it's
gentleman
day 2.
Through and through.
Day 2, he brings the horse with him.
Yes.
Just in case.
So the all by myself part, I wrote in our notes, teehee, the banter between CHAOL and Irene is gold, sass level 10. Like,
it's so good. This is where
really
this felt
gets me.
Like what like Sarah J. Maas like does continue to do really well, but like the Aelin and Rowan conversations and then the like Irene and CHAOL conversations, this is the first bit of Irene and CHAOL where we're really getting that like, oh, they're gonna have a similar bantery relationship as the other two.
And then I also wrote, Irene is actually starting to like CHAOL.
Yeah.
And then you wrote, in all caps, could this reread actually make me like him too? I needed to share that with everybody.
It's real. I did write that in all caps because I read this chapter and I was like, damn, I forgot that he actually is funny sometimes when he's not being an annoying sack of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. I like this version of him, and he needs to be this version more frequently, please.
Yeah.
Healing is a process. I have to remind myself of that.
So CHAOL has made it to the Torre. We know Irene is like feels terrible that she slept through 2 days or a day and a half, whatever it is. So she skipped a whole day. That means she has not visited any of her patients. And CHAOL shows up on his horse and with a secondary horse for her to ride. He is like, you can have the day off if you don't want to train, or like if you don't want to do like work on me. She's kind of like pushing back, like, no, I want to keep working. So at first she is asking him about his toes, because obviously we know he can wiggle his toes. She notices that like in his boots, you can like see it, like he's wearing his boots when he's riding his horse, so she takes him through like a couple like mounted exercises similar to like the first time they did mounted exercises. And in the conversation, she's like, whenever you can, wiggle your toes. And as we know, in the background, anything we've read about CHAOL at this point since he's moved his toes is he's like consciously always thinking about his toes and moving them and moving them and moving them. Because the more blood he can get to his feet, the better it is for his like overall health in general. And like a big concern has always been that his muscles are going to atrophy and then he won't be able to use his legs at all, even if he gets better. So
yeah,
move toes. So we're doing it. Irene admits to like, I slept through the day. It was kind of a lot. She like kind of admits to it maybe being more than she led on to it being, and not just normal, that, you know, this magic is something in you is fighting back. And so, you know, and he convinces her, okay, I know you have other patients. How about I escort you to your other patients?
Yay.
And she's like, well, I do have to see them. Is kind of like trying to say like, no, it's fine. No, it's fine. And he blurts out, I like to be outside. The streets are empty. Let me. He couldn't finish. Irene seemed to get it, though. There's a young mother across the city, a long ride away. She's recovering from a hard labor 2 weeks ago. I'd like to visit her. CHAOL tried not to look too relieved. Then let's go. And that is just like, to me, it sums up his and Irene's like relationship right now is like, he's actually trying really hard, which I want to give CHAOL all the benefit that I can give him because like,
I mean, he makes way more of an effort to communicate with her than he does with Nesrin or like anyone else.
And I don't know.
He's like more honest about what he wants and how he's feeling with her than he has been with anyone else.
Oh, 100%. And I'm trying to like figure out, obviously I want to know like why that is. And like we can kind of get or like make assumptions as to why that is. For me, it's very much like she's the only one that's not really like putting up with his shit. Everyone else is kind of like, it's CHAOL being CHAOL. Like he's going to feel sorry for himself. Like all of this stuff. But she's the first one to be like, no, I can see through that. And you're going to have to fucking work on it. So it feels like because he's kind of moved past this point and trusts her, and he's realizing that even after all of the shit that Otterlin has done to her, she's trusting him. I think that helps a lot. There's just so much between the two of them because like his background is very much against her, which is not great. And she's like still trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. There's not a lot of reasons that either of them should trust each other.
And like he honestly doesn't know that she's not a spy. And granted, she's warned him that everyone around is kind of a spy working for the Kagan. Yeah. So like, we don't know. I don't know. I like this whole thing. So they work on going through the town. They go to like 2 or 3 different places. They first go over to the mother, like she had mentioned. I'm trying to remember if it was like on the way there. They have conversations, and I don't know if it's on the way there or after she's already like gone to this one house. But he questions her kind of a little bit more about her background, and she questions him back. Like they're always trying to get little like minor details from each other. And so she gives him kind of the detail of how her mother was a healer and her mother's mother was a healer. And she like comes from a family of healers. And CHAOL says something along the lines of like, that's very on the nose, Irene Towers, considering you're now at the Torre. Like, it's just, is it ironic or is it like, I don't know. They banter about it too, which I think she's like, I don't know. She's kind of like, oh, shut up. Like, I don't know. It's so cute. I just really like their conversations that they have. This whole like scene is like one of my favorites so far in Tower of Dawn. Also, it's just so good.
They also have, because they talk a little bit about like, could this place exist? Like, could
Rifthold be similar?
Could this be a thing that Rifthold could achieve? Like, is that, it's so idealistic. I don't think that he believes that this kind of place these ideals could survive in Rifthold. Or even and then they talk about like in other places too, because like it's not just like in Otterlin, but Fenharrow and Eelway. Which I think it's like they're both pretty idealistic. They're both like weirdly like optimistic despite everything that you read about the two of them. Like they seem like pretty pessimistic people, but like I feel like on the
The
large
two of them
scale,
together
they're actually
are
optimistic.
not. Yeah. Individually, internal dialogue, pessimistic. When they're communicating to each other, not as much so, which I think is great. Maybe that's why I like it. Their interactions is because like internally
They're different with the two of them than they are
with everyone else.
Yeah.
So they're on their way. They're going to visit this woman who had given birth and had like trouble after giving birth, as Irene had mentioned. And the mother looks healthy, like the mother looks healed and is good. The baby, like Irene, of course, turns into like CHAOL says that Irene turns into this like different person. She just gets this like smile about her and like this like air about her. She's just happy. She's interacting with like this woman's baby and is just like thrilled, and the baby's happy and Irene's happy, and CHAOL is like, wow, like she actually can be happy and she just maybe hates me a little sometimes. Where you're like,
I might just be a little bit difficult to work with, maybe.
Yeah. Fantastic. Of course, the mother is like asking questions. And this is something that, of course, like makes CHAOL slightly uncomfortable because talking about sex is not a thing they do in Rifthold, but in Antica, they're very open about everything. And so, of course, the woman is like, I've been following your regimens. The baths have helped. There's no more bleeding. And then she asks Irene, how long until I can, with my husband? Irene snorted, give it another 7 weeks. The woman let out a squawk of outrage. But you healed me. And Irene goes, and you nearly bled out before I could. Maybe take a break. And she's
just
like,
a minute.
Fine. Give your body time to rest. Other healers would tell you 8 more weeks at a minimum. Try it at 7. If there's any discomfort, you stop. She's like, yeah, I know. It's just been a while. Where I'm just like,
so cute.
She's so fun.
Good for her.
This is a woman I would like to be friends with.
Same. I also want to be friends with Irene, so.
And then, of course, the woman goes, I certainly hope you enjoy yourself since I can't. And, like, looks at CHAOL. And Irene's like, no, what? No. The way she spat that no, he took no satisfaction in that. Like, CHAOL was disappointed that she immediately was like, oh, no. Absolutely
I'm
not.
good, thanks. CHAOL's like, what the fuck? It's so good.
CHAOL, of course, then goes, as they were leaving, like they go and leave the house. Woman's good. She's fine. They part. And CHAOL chuckles. I hadn't realized that was a firm no. I was just like, oh, CHAOL, get it?
It's so good.
Of course, she glares at him.
It was a firm no.
And was like,
damn.
Don't you share a bed with Captain Philippe? And he's just like, oh, he says something along the lines of like, do you not believe I'm in fit form to pleasure a woman? And she goes red, where I'm just like, CHAOL, holy.
I also would have been like, damn, dude, what are we doing?
CHAOL, the guy who was uncomfortable being like shirtless around someone, saw her ankle at one point and was like, I'm going to hit all these guards.
Has too many layers.
He's an onion.
He's a fucking weird onion.
Yeah, he goes, not in fit form to pleasure a woman. He was shocked he said it, but again, more than a tad smug to see her eyes flare. No, Irene said, somehow going red. Certainly not that, but you're you. I'm trying not to be insulted. She waved a hand. You know what I mean. And then he goes,
does he know?
I was joking, Irene. I am with Nezrin. And I'm just like, oh.
Are you with Nezrin?
It's that shit where I'm like, oh, CHAOL. We're back to like,
I know.
Old, like the original CHAOL that we were introduced to.
This is the roller coaster ride, okay? Just, we're on a high. Don't worry. He's going to fuck up in a minute.
Stop.
I'm sure.
I don't want him to.
I'm kidding. It's relax. It's all right.
I want him to be fine.
So, yeah. so they get ready for the party. CHAOL and Nezrin have like a really short conversation where like Nezrin kind of does like ask him a little bit about like where like you were out like in the sun today, like where did you guys go, and or like what, like you were out in the sun, like what were you doing? And he mentions that like him and Irene went around and like she went with him while she was like healing people, and they kind of are like, okay, we'll talk about that later. Like nothing else. Again, they like talk to each other. They do not communicate at all, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so infuriating because they almost do the thing where it's like, okay, well, like maybe we'll talk about that later. Like look. They give that look of like, oh, we'll chat about that. And they don't ever chat about shit.
Yeah, this is the part where it pretty much says it's like his internal dialogue says he still hadn't told her about his toes. Later. They'll discuss it all later.
I'm with Nezrin. Not that I talk to Nezrin, but sure. Yeah, you're with Nezrin.
Mm-hmm.
You're only with Nezrin because you haven't told Nezrin that you don't want to be with Nezrin. That's why you're with Nezrin.
And Nezrin has also not said those words to you, to be fair.
Yeah, which is also probably true at this point.
Yeah. Nezrin's going to be with Sartak based off her slight embarrassment when her aunt brought it up.
Oh no. Nezrin finds something better for herself than CHAOL. It's so sad.
To be fair, they even previously
together.
They don't talk to each other. Like even in
They're
the previous
terrible.
book when they were like actually friends.
But they were both, the problem is they were both very clear in the previous book that they were super friends with benefits. Like that was the point. They were convenient for each other. And then like they traveled
started
over
caring
here
about each other.
And it got like a little like gray on the boat, and then because Nezrin was like trying to care and be more, and CHAOL was just, you know,
paralyzed. To be fair.
That too. I thought about saying it, but then I was like, nah, I'm not giving him the credit.
Paralyzed, to be fair. And
no,
like,
yeah.
The only way they communicated previously was through sex, and he was like, not in it, not in the mood.
Yep.
Sorry. Can't feel from my hips down. Don't know if it works. Would like to not find out like this on a boat.
Our editor Flip will be very happy to hear someone coming to CHAOL's defense, because all of our DMs between the three of us are just him going to bat for CHAOL, and I'm just like, nah, I don't care.
Like, who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit? It's CHAOL. There are CHAOL lovers out there. I
am not on Team CHAOL. However, I do not hate him like you do. I do not love him.
This is changing my mind, though.
Okay.
I'm not on team I hate CHAOL. I'm on team CHAOL annoys the shit out of me on occasions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is fair.
You know. Aelin also annoys the shit out of me on occasion. She needs to stop fucking keeping everything to herself, okay? Please, God.
Please, share.
Everything's a surprise, last minute.
I would like at least Lysandra. You cannot tell Adian if you want to not tell Adian. We can make this a girls' club. I don't give a shit. But please at least tell Lysandra.
Or tell Rowan. Like one of them.
Yeah. Rowan knows most of the things that are going on.
Yeah, but still she doesn't fucking tell shit to Rowan sometimes.
Yeah.
Like 80% of the time. It's like, wow, that was a cool surprise that you didn't tell me about.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we don't do that again. Well,
thanks.
He's gonna have a secret from her because
she's gonna show up and he's gonna tell her immediately because that's who he is as a person.
True. I guess that's fair.
He's gonna like hug her and be like, "Hey, by the way, I told Gabrielle."
Gabrielle knows he has a son. Oops, my bad.
Sorry,
I did it for the order.
Also, it's so nice to see you. Love you.
Kiss, kiss. I miss you.
Kiss, kiss. Love you. Missed you so much. She's gonna be like, "What the fuck did you just say?" Hold on, what? Right, so they arrive back. They go to the party. Like, as soon as they show up, like, they go through musical chairs at the dining table.
Yeah, Hussar makes it, like, real weird for everybody.
Oh, my God. Hussar makes it so fucking awkward so immediately. She's like, you can't sit next to Nezrin. Like, CHAOL and Nezrin can't sit next to each other. Irene's gonna sit here next to CHAOL. It's like, dude, chill. Be less subtle, please, God.
Yeah. It's so weird. So Nezrin, Sartak sees what's going on. Like, he pretty much reads it as, like, my sister's being fucking weird. And so Sartak invites Nezrin to sit by him.
So nice.
And of course, Hussar demands that Irene sits next to CHAOL. CHAOL is, worried.
She
because
literally just leans down into Nezrin's ear and goes, move.
Yeah.
What the fuck, girl? Chill.
Yeah, Hasar is, I don't know. She's not my favorite. She's
got a heavy hand.
CHAOL in this scenario is rightfully nervous because Caution is making "I'm gonna fucking kill you" eyes at him. Because
it's not even his fault.
Yeah, he has done nothing. First of all, he's in a wheelchair. He can't move himself. Like, he can't move very easily. And, like, he's just been put in this scenario of, like, wheelchair. Oh, fuck. So, CHAOL notices Caution, of course. Irene also notices Caution. And so, she's, like, pretty tight-lipped. She's not really saying much. He's trying to, like, still talk to her while it, like, not being flirty. Because a lot of their conversation is a little flirty and, like, playful, and Irene is very much,
they have to be way more careful during this conversation. It is funny when she first sits down, CHAOL just goes, do I want to know? She goes, no.
She's like, no, let's not talk about it. So they talk about something else.
They talk about his toes.
Yes.
Because this is the hot topic of conversation that they can safely talk about pretty much anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yes, my toes are well. Thank you for asking.
Yes, I'm moving them currently under the table.
Yeah.
CHAOL adds like a little tidbit, kind of circle back to like giving Irene a little bit more information about himself, in the sense that he says Dorian would really enjoy this because he is like the reason CHAOL would go to parties to begin with, and like celebrations and things, was because Dorian enjoyed celebrating, and like that was very much something he would do. And him seeing all of these people coming together for like this kind of event, it like makes him miss his best friend a little. And he's like, I really think that it's like another one of those like optimistic looks that he's like, I think Dorian would do something like this, and he would also
he's
enjoy
like
something
looking
like this.
He starts thinking about the future more and is like, this makes me happy.
Yeah, it's very cute.
He also kind of, he senses that like she's being manipulated, basically. He says, the role of pawn doesn't suit you, which I was like, damn, it's a strong take, sir. She basically reveals that her healing him is like her last test that Hafiza is giving her. Yeah. CHAOL's like, so I am an experiment. And she's like, this isn't about you, this is about me. Chill. Like, I did love that of this. What did she say? Hafiza thinks to test me one last time. So I am indeed an experiment. She says, no, you have very little to do with it. This last unofficial test it's about me. And it makes me happy that she kind of like admits to it to him specifically, because I think he knows enough about her now to like draw the conclusion of like why it would be the test. And she like trusts him with that, which is so nice.
Hafiza knows that she is still conflicted about Otterlin, and Hafiza also knows that like what she wants to do is go and be an aid to those dealing with war. And this really is the final, like, will you be able to heal everyone? Are you going to have a bias against someone who needs to be healed, even if you think that they may be on the wrong side? Which is like very much the whole picture for her.
Yeah.
We get a little spicy in this last scene that we're going to go through. So part of this is the Coggin is there at the start to have dinner, and then I believe he's there for the beginning, and he like then announces that he's leaving to go have dinner with his wife, to like spend the evening with his wife.
Everyone parties.
Pretty much when the Coggin ain't around, the kids be playing, because the second he leaves, it is described as a bunch of like hookahs pretty much come in that have this smoke and drug in it. Some kind of happy smoke that comes in to play. And everyone starts like separating off into groups and like people. So you get who is it?
I think it's Sartak and Nezrin.
But the I don't remember his name with the A. He's pretty much sitting between two women and like they're kissing on him and he's like chatting with someone. Yeah, it's like Argan. Argan is described as like being between two women, and then Duva and Hussar are like loving up on each other with this smoke incense thing in front of them. And then
Duva's the sister that's pregnant.
Oh, sorry.
It's Renya. And Hussar.
Sorry. Hussar
so,
and
like,
Renya.
Hussar and her like girlfriend go off. Duva like leaves, I think,
because
with her
of the
husband.
baby.
Like just straight up leaves because of the baby.
She's like, this is
I'm out.
Not safe for my baby, and leaves, which, you know, fair.
Yeah, I think it doesn't seem like either of their scene as well. They're like, good, I'm gonna go do private things in private places. Bye.
Yeah.
And then like Nezrin and Sartak kind of go off, and then it's just like Irene and CHAOL, and Irene's kind of like, I have to like stick by your side because like otherwise Hafiza's gonna be mad. So or not.
Yeah,
Hafiza,
and then
Hussar's
Caution comes up to them too. Caution comes up to like ask her to come and sit with him, and that's when CHAOL like turns to her and says,
before he gets a chance, pretty much.
Yeah, and is like, I'd like to go sit with you to talk about my healing or something along those lines, where he's like, I would like to sit with you. Her eyes were slightly wide. Where? Caution shut his mouth, and CHAOL had the sense that there was a target being drawn on his chest. And you're like,
yeah,
fuck. Where it's quieter. Just like, want to talk to you in the quiet. We don't need to, like, he's trying to not put them where this smoke is, but also like.
Yeah, you're right. I was wrong too. It wasn't Irene that did it. It was CHAOL. It's like, if we're meant to be seen together, like CHAOL's like, we should just go and like sit and
play the
pretend
pawns. Yeah. Like, we'll be the pawns. Yeah. So Irene agrees as Caution is like about to act. So not great. Not good for the CHAOL front of things. In trying to get, you know, the Kagan and his children on his side. But, you know, we'll figure that out later.
This is also where my favorite description of all time happens. Like, it doesn't matter what book, it might be just it's the best description ever. So he wheels himself over, and like she walks in front of him basically, and like he goes behind her and like lets her lead the way. He's like describing her dress. And he says the back of the dress was mostly open, revealing smooth, unblemished skin and the fine groove of her spine. It dipped low enough for him to make out the twin indentations in her lower back, as if some god had pressed his thumbs there. What the fuck? That one, like, sent me. I was like, what the hell? That's so good! As if some god had pressed his thumbs there. I just need to let it sit there for a minute. Just let everybody think about that for a second. It's fantastic. Also, sir, what kind of thoughts we having? What kind of thoughts we having?
I'll be having spicy thoughts about Irene. And unfortunately not about Nezrin.
Needs to talk to Nezrin, please, for the love of Christ.
Yeah.
Talk to Nezrin.
Yeah.
I'm over it.
Yep.
Nezrin went off with Sartak. Like, she's over it. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So they talk about like
they go and sit in a place too. It's the only like seat that's left open that is something that they wouldn't be like sitting on top of each other. Yeah. So like they look around the room and like there's a like couch where they could share one seat sort of, and then there's this where they can sit near each other and not actually like be up on top of each other, or they could sit like looking at each other, so they're like having a conversation. So they find like one spot, but unfortunately it is still in like the middle of the smoke, and so they both get a little druggied up a little, and
it's like an aphrodisiac.
Yeah,
basically, like it makes them happy, it makes them a little spicy. and they don't really realize it until like they realize how close together they've just been like slowly scooching,
just like
and
face
like
to face.
he's thinking about stuff, she's thinking about stuff, and like end all be all, like nothing happens because CHAOL's like, I gotta have a conversation with Nezrin because this is bad. They have like a conversation about like, what are we going to do? Like, Irene has to tell Hasar something. So CHAOL is like thinking about places that she would never go.
Oh, this part is horrible.
This one actually makes me laugh really hard because this is the one time where I'm like, and we're on the roller coaster. He's on a high and and then we're going back down. But I think that this one made me laugh really hard because I was like, I can't even fucking fault him for this one. Like, this one was just funny, unfortunate.
Yeah.
He says, Aylin's told me about how she, like, destroyed Skull's Bay and, like, how bad that went when she was Selena. She'd never go there. So he tells Irene, you can tell Hasar, like, that she's gonna go to Skull's Bay because she'll never go there. That's where she is. Okay? That's literally where she is. So, unfortunately, CHAOL
he at least
did do his best. He did his best.
This one he tried. He actually thought it through. He didn't just say, I'm going to make a decision for someone. He physically, like, he went through, he used his little brain and he said, okay, so what is a place that she could go anywhere? Well, I know that she has had a very terrible time with Captain Rolfe because she destroyed all his shit. So, like, there's no chance she would go there of all places because she wants
won't find
her
any
dead.
Allies there.
To his defense, she probably won't.
This is why I'm like, again, we've gone on a down, but like, it's not his fault. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is a fair mistake. It might be the most unfortunate of all the places you could pick. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Eelway. It could have been an option. In Dovier, that would have been a great option, honestly, because she literally never would have gone there.
See, Eelway, she'd probably go to.
Eelway, maybe. In Dovier, I don't think so.
No. Well, unless she was going to free the slaves because they didn't actually get freed or something. Like, I don't know.
That's true.
I feel like of all the places that we've learned about, why would she go to Skull's Bay in his defense?
Because he still technically has a navy that she could, you know. I don't know. So he's like, he gives her that information, and then she basically uses that as like a, okay, great, I'm gonna get up now and go.
They do get like in their conversation, like she alludes to like Kaja being selected to please him, and he's like, I'm not into that, and there's like a relief from her, and you're like, oh god. And like he puts his hand on like her face or something. He touches her in some way, whether it's her arm, and she like refers to it as feeling like electrifying or like just feels so good. And she's like getting too cozy, and she's like, his body's warm and cozy, and then she's like, okay, I have to go now. Like, we should really not be doing this. And he also is like, you're right, we should not be doing this.
Yeah, like they like completely have like a moment, and they are just like, and we gotta go. So she like uses the opportunity. He tells her the information too, because he's like, he feels like he owes her. He realizes that he's put her in danger, and he like does not want that for her. So he gives her information that he thinks would be helpful. He could have kept his mouth shut, but I like Irene, so I'm glad he didn't. But technically he could have just kept his mouth shut. I'm sure Aelin will be very like, hey, you could have just kept your mouth shut.
Rowan also and Adian and Lysandra will all be like, bro, please, for the love of God, stop talking.
Aelin will be fine about it though when she finds out it's Irene, so it's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
I can't wait till Irene and Aelin meet again. I'm so excited.
I know. It brings me so much joy. Also, Oh my god. Why can't I remember Lorcan and Elide? When Elide. Oh. I love Elide.
I can't wait for Elide to be back.
Elide is gonna it's gonna break my heart. Anyways.
They do go back. Nezrin and CHAOL go back to like their rooms later, and Nezrin was filling CHAOL in about all the information she gathered with Sartak and the stuff that like he knows and how they have agents that are looking into Erewhon's like whereabouts and things like that, kind of informing CHAOL about what the Rooks know, like what all of those people know and like what they're looking at.
They're like in his bed having this conversation and they fall asleep talking.
Yeah.
About not the shit they should be talking about.
Pretty much, yeah. With every glance, those unspoken words still echoed. I know. CHAOL let Nezrin talk, listened until her voice lulled him to sleep because he knew. He knew too.
That's cool. Let's voice it. Let's just say it then. Can we just say it and then we can get, Yeah. Then we can move on? No? All right, cool.
So that's where we're going to stop with Nezrin and CHAOL and Irene.
For this episode.
Yeah. So CHAOL needs to talk to Nezrin. Irene and CHAOL have feelings sort of communication for each other.
Would be great.
Sartak and Nezrin have feelings for each other. Just have the conversation, shake hands, be like, peace and love.
Shake hands, switch. Peace out.
Just switch partners. Just
go separate ways. Just not switch partners. Just don't. Just separate ways. You can
still be friends. Like still work together. Still be friends.
They're
like,
all still gonna be friends. Yeah, absolutely.
Just like realize that this isn't working. Like this isn't gonna be good for us.
Yeah.
Like maybe we.
We've outgrown this, and it's okay.
So we're back with Aelin, Adian, and Lysandra. So where we left off, they were getting on a boat to go to Skulls Bay. Aelin and Adian are described as like two hooded figures, and the captain had no idea that them and their pet hawk, which I thought was, or falcon, their pet falcon, who paid in gold, had no intention of going the entire journey. And so they're going to get off at some point. Obviously, Skulls Bay. They don't want people to know that, so they get on a boat that's going somewhere else, which passes by where they need to go, which I actually don't know where this place is. Lariba. I like to look at the map and figure out where that is. But they're going to pass Skulls Bay, I would assume. Oh yeah, it's right before Lariba, which is Eelway. So this boat is going to Eelway from wherever the fuck they are. Where are they? Not Inish.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Ilium. So they're north.
Oh, yeah.
They're north. They're right here. And where they're going is down where my pinky is. Like over here.
They're very down south, for those of you that are listening. They're going all the way from the north part of the map to the very bottom part of the southern part of the map.
Yeah, pretty much.
And apparently we're going to do that quickly.
To the southern continent. I don't know. They got magic.
Yeah, travel.
I don't know.
Travel is travel.
Somehow you just blink and it just happens. Aelin and Adian have like a heart-to-heart. They do also talk about the like, hey, you have to like let us know when things are happening, which, fair. Adian would like to be involved in the conversation. Lysandra would also like to be involved in the conversation. They can't help her if they don't know what's going on, which, very fair, I think.
She's the greatest, isn't she?
Yeah.
She just doesn't tell anybody anything ever. It's great.
She thinks, Aelin thinks about, when they're having this conversation, she thinks about something that Rowan told her when they were training, and it was, people you love are just weapons that will be used against you. Because she, as we know, internalizes everything, and she harps on everything. And these words are like, they really like mold who she is. And so she knows that she cares about Adian and Lysandra. So she is scared to death that, like, if she shows that she cares about these people, if they know what's going on, if they know too much information, they're going
She
to
puts
be
them in danger.
taken. Yeah. And
Yeah.
be in danger of being killed, whatever, becoming Vogue, and then they know everything. They also talk about the past. Like, Adian goes into a little bit more detail about, like, the things he did in the 10 years that they were separated, and how he even says, he's like, I will be against Darrow if he's going to go against you, like 100%. But I need you to also know that, like, he shielded me from a lot of things. Like, he protected me as a kid from a lot of things.
Not just him, like, he protected as much of their country as he could.
Mm-hmm.
He was all that was left. Like, he did what he could. The only reason that anyone from that territory likely is even still alive is because of him. He's not a bad man. He just doesn't trust a 18-year-old girl to come in and fix everything, which is reasonable.
Yep.
Does he have to be an asshole about it? Nah. Was he being an asshole? Abso-fucking-lutely. So we can still be mad at him for being an asshole. But, you know, maybe just be more like Murtaugh and less like yourself.
Yeah.
Please.
They also talk about him fighting in a war when he was like 14, which is like, fuck, dude. But that's kind of when Adian is like, so. Well, that's kind of, Darrow put me in like the spot that was like the less attacked thing. Like, he was really trying to protect me. Even though, like, she was like, well, maybe don't send you to war at all. Darrow made sure I stayed out of the thick of it, but we were overwhelmed. It was unavoidable.
Yeah.
So you get this idea that, like,
that's how dire stuff was,
he's not awful. Yeah.
It's sad.
So they also need to find this lock. They've talked about this lock that Brannon has said, find the key for the lock in the marshes. And
find the lock.
She's like, what key? What marshes? Is like, find key marshes. Poof, I'm gone now.
Bye.
And she's like, okay, find the lock. Got it. The only marshes they know about are the stone marshes of Eelway, which happen to be on their way. Like Skulls Bay, and then it's stone marshes. Yep. So, like,
I'm gonna take a gander.
We're all going south. Everything is happening in the south, apparently, for this part of the book. Yeah. So it's Skulls Bay, Lariba, which is the one we were just talking about, and then the stone marshes are like, you follow the tip and go around like the base of the island.
So they're gonna go down south, hit up Skulls Bay, find Rowan, find Dorian, and then hoof it over to the marshes to try to find the lock and the key or whatever wildly unhelpful riddle information we get from anyone who's dead and tries to come back to help us.
Yeah.
Unhelpfully.
She doesn't share this information, of course, but her internal dialogue is that she is going to convince Rolfe to let her use his arm map, his tattoo map, magic map, to find the key. Good fucking luck with that. I just hate that this was all... She couldn't tell Lysandra and Adian?
No.
Like, hey, this guy has a magic map. That's... Maybe you're going to be a part of this because we're going to try to convince him to help us find this key lock thing.
Mm-mm. Nah.
Sick. Cool. So.
And we leave off with CHAOL and Nesrin not talking. We leave off with Aelin not fucking talking. It's great. No one wants to talk about anything. This book's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they still haven't made it to Skulls Bay. Sorry, guys. Like, this just... It takes a while for them to get to Skulls Bay. But they're trying.
I mean, they're going across the entire country.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to see that part of the map and be like, yeah, it makes sense. They're coming from all the way up here and going all the way down these tiny little dots. That's Skulls Bay. And then all the way, whoops, I'm going the wrong way. That's the marshes.
Yeah.
So real fun. Okay, that's where we leave our dream team. And now let's go check in on Manon, who's not doing well, if I have to reiterate again. She
still unwell.
The last thing she said to Abraxos was oak. He figured it out because, as we know, he's a good little boy. We love Abraxos.
He's the smartest boy.
Manon woke up in Oakwald Forest.
Yes.
And she was still strapped to the back of Abraxos, who was monitoring her breathing.
Calls him a mother hen. She goes, "You mother hen."
She wakes up and the first thing she hears is a stream babbling nearby and is like, Abraxos knew to bring her to water because, like, water is healing. Abraxos helped. And then she tries to get up and she's trying really hard and it hurts. And she's like reopening her wound. It's like gashed across the middle, trying to reopen her wound. Abraxos turns his head towards her and dips it low and is like, climb on my nose, like climb on the front of my face and I will lower you. And she's like, I'm fine. And he's just like huffs out at her, like breathes heavily and like lowers his head more. And she's like, okay, fine. And he helps her
so
down.
Cute.
And you're like, Abraxos, please. So it just is pretty much
perfect.
Like he helps lower her to the ground. She lays down on the grass on her back and he's sniffing her and is like, starts whining. And she's like, stop, I'm fine. And then it all goes dark again. And we're like, please, just get to the water. Please.
When she wakes up again, she sees a person.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, not a friendly person.
Nope.
She has
and of
blue
course
eyes.
she says she's gonna go to the water to drink, and so she tells Abraxos to like wait here for me because there's like too many branches or whatever. So of course Abraxos isn't right by her side when she runs into this person.
Yeah, so Manon asks her, "Who are you?" And she says, "The Dark King calls me his bloodhound." Manon goes, "Never heard of you."
I fucking love Manon so much.
It's like, this is not the time to be cracking jokes. You're literally gonna fucking die. And she's like, "I've never heard of you. The Dark King calls you his bloodhound? Wow, that's so cool."
Mm-hmm.
She basically says, like, that she's been kept hidden away, locked away, because she wasn't needed because Manon and her riders were, like, following directions. And now that they're not following directions, like, he's let out the bloodhound to, like, come and track her down to bring her back.
This scares me. Isn't there a reference of another bloodhound at a different time and it's like one of the guys?
So this is what I don't understand. I think the bloodhounds are the witches. But I don't know because, like, I can't remember where the blue eyes come from. Because I remember there's, like, Manon's got her flecks of gold or something like that. I don't remember what the blue eyes are.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, there's some tie back.
But
because I remember reading
the blue
this
eyes,
and being
they
confused.
say the thing about blue eyes, like, multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't remember what the blue... I don't know why the blue eyes is, like, such a thing, but... Because the blue eyes are the Galathinius. Because Dorian has blue eyes and Selena has blue eyes.
That's terrifying.
But I don't know who this is. And I genuinely don't even remember. Couldn't tell you. read the whole thing. Don't know who this is. Don't remember.
Oh, scary.
Not great. No, I don't really know. I didn't really know what was going on. I just know that obviously it's so, like, it says something. The woman had been an illusion, a glamour. The creature that stood before her had been birthed in darkness, so white she doubted it had ever felt the kiss of the sun until now. And the mind that had invented it, the imagination of someone born in another world, one where nightmares prowled the dark, cold earth.
Yeah, the body and face were vaguely human, but bloodhound, yes, that was fitting. The nostrils were enormous, the eyes so large and lidless, she wondered if Erewhon himself had spread her eyelids apart and her mouth. The teeth were black stumps, the tongue thick and red for tasting the air, and spreading from the white body the method of Manon's transportation, wings. So it also was a winged creature.
Like, this is what I lose track of in this book.
It's like all the creatures.
Where'd the wyverns come from? What did the witches birth? Like, I can't keep straight. What came from what? Is this what came out of the witches?
Wouldn't be surprised. But weren't they breeding males? I think that was like the big thing. It was like,
I don't remember.
You see, the bloodhound purred. You see what he can give you. I can now taste the wind. Maybe they changed a witch somehow. Because she's saying something along the lines, you see what he can give you. I can now taste the wind.
Like the way that they did something to Caltaine.
Yeah. Smell its very marrow, probable. Just as I smelled you across the land. Ugh. So creepy.
She has wings though. That's like that. What?
I don't know. Yeah, it's very strange. Like all the way she's described is I just like have no idea what she is. My biggest takeaway, like my biggest thing from this, and I loved, was Manon over and over telling herself alive. She was alive and she would stay that way. And of course, she was like, I gotta fight. We're gonna do this. And she somehow makes it back. Either Abraxos makes it to her. Abraxos sailed with her higher and higher. And instead of kind of running away, he's like, nah, this bloodhound's gonna fucking die. So he turns around. Manon is like not really in the best, as we know, shape. She can't really fight. But Abraxos is like, I can. And I will. So he pretty much like turns so fast that the bloodhound like doesn't realize what's happening and whips the shit out of her with his tail. Poisoned barbs, like iron poisoned barb tail. The bloodhound falls to the forest floor and yells, I will find you. It was miles before the screamed words faded. Manon and Abraxos paused only long enough for her to crawl onto his back and strap herself in. To the coast, Manon said over the wind as the sky bled crimson into a final darkness, somewhere safe. Blood trickled from between her fingers, faster, stronger than before, only a moment before the darkness claimed her again. So she opened, like the wound opened, she was trying to hold it, and a lot more blood was coming out. And she just pretty much said, Abraxos, just save us.
Somewhere safe. I don't know.
And that, unfortunately, anywhere but here is where we end this.
Yeah. Shit's getting crazy.
A lot of shit be happening.
These ones are... These books are so good.
Yeah.
So that is it for this episode. Unfortunately, we're ending with no one communicating and Manon is still dying. So that's great. It's a good time to end. But thank you so much for checking out our podcast and getting to know us. We hope you enjoyed listening, and you can find us for more content on the Smut Peddlers on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. We're posting as much as we possibly can. So thank you so much for listening.